Welcome to Soul Seed Chronicles, Voices of the Sacred Valley. I'm Israel, your guide on this mystical journey, and I couldn't be more excited to embark on this adventure with you. Before we unfold the tales that make Pisac truly extraordinary, I want to express deep gratitude to our sponsor and heartbeat of this community, Soul Seed. More than just a mystery school, more than just a cafe, Soulseed is a haven where co-creation blossoms, community events thrive, and the rich tapestry of Pisac comes alive. Now, in the spotlight of our mystical exploration, let's welcome Ari, a luminary in our community known for guiding transformative breathwork experiences. Not only a gifted breathwork guide, but also an amazing vocalist and talented musician. Now, join me as we dive into Ari's journey and her profound connection to these sacred lands. Thank you, Ari, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, and we're going to talk a little bit about how you got here to Pisac, a little bit about the modalities and different spiritual practices that you have learned over your journey, and also some of the things that you bring to the table here in the community. Okay, So I want to start off by just take us back to the beginning. What brought you to Pisac?
Actually, funnily enough, I've been to Pisac 10 years ago. I came to Pisac for one day. I was actually staying in Cusco, and I didn't know anything about Pisac. I think I came to see the ruins, and that was it. And then I went home, I traveled more. I live a nomadic lifestyle, so I've just been living all over the world for the past 10 years. So I lived in Vietnam, Colombia, India. I traveled to Peru 10 years ago, and I always remembered it. It was one of the main countries that stuck with me, and I always wanted to go back, but I don't usually go to the same country twice, so it just didn't happen, and then I was in Mexico just before I came here, and quite a few of my friends spoke about specifically Pisac, and I don't know, even though none of them were here at the time, I just felt this call, and I wasn't sure what it was, but I was just all right, I'm just gonna dive into that, and so I booked a flight to Peru, and came straight to Pisac, and here I am.
Nice. And how long have you been here since you made that decision to jump over here?
Yeah, it's been about 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I've heard of people saying I'm fairly new to Pisac. I've been here for almost a year and some change, but it's a very transient place. But it's also magnetic. People just come. I came literally for a breathwork workshop.
Oh wow.
And I fell in love with the place.
Yeah.
So since arriving to Pisac, how has your journey unfolded, and how have you kind of integrated yourself into the community?
I mean, it's been life-changing, honestly. It's the case with so many people that I meet here. There's so many expats, such a big community. It's really beautiful. It was unexpected. I was kind of planning on being here 2-3 months, maybe tops, and the visa was initially that, and I was just I'm just gonna feel it out, and that's usually how I go to places. I'm just open. If I love it, I can stay longer, and if not, I'm open to changing. But I just completely fell in love, and I basically started. I became a part of this amazing medicine community called Nido Solar, and so I've been doing a lot of medicine work and teaching breath work weekly and doing private sessions as well. So just living, learning, working, and I teach some in the community here. I teach at Soul Seed every week, and the community I work with is in Alaska. So my life has just been kind of mostly between those two things.
Yeah. What was the name of the community you mentioned?
Nido Solar.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that and how you discovered them.
I came here and I hadn't done any ceremonies yet. I was just kind of feeling out the place, the space, the energy, and I found a flyer in one of the Telegram groups of like Honeyquin ayahuasca ceremony, and it was just this beautiful photo of these Honeyquins, and I had sat twice before in India in the Honeyquin tradition, and that was all the ayahuasca that I had sat with at the time, and yeah, so I just saw that flyer and I messaged and I just inquired, asked for more information, and it just felt really right. And the next day I went to that ceremony, and that's where I met the community, because they were all working with the Honeyquins and holding space. And yeah, slowly I just started coming to every ceremony and just completely falling in love with all of them and the Honeyquins, and yeah, it just basically became such a huge part of my life now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And can you share a little bit about like the origins of your like spiritual journey and like your spiritual awakening?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I've always had this openness to spirituality and mysticism. I've always been interested. And like psychedelics, because it's so funny, I actually tried psychedelics way later in my life, but just recently I started connecting that, like way before I started taking psychedelics, I was really, really obsessed with like the movie Across the Universe, which is all about, it's the Beatles musical. So I loved the Beatles, and then, it's all about like psychedelics and that era of the 60s. I loved Woodstock, the documentary. So anyways, I was always drawn to these things, but I didn't fully understand why. But I just, for some reason, I was just like, I kept rewatching them over and over. But then I was also struggling a lot, like in my, since about the age of 18, so after I finished high school in my early 20s till my late 20s, I was quite depressed and lost, and just completely living in this gray zone without fully understanding why. So definitely there was a good like 8 years of pretty deep suffering in my life, and without knowing how to navigate that. And then I eventually had a really intense breakup, which is how it often happens, and went to India and had that whole, cliche of eat, pray, love. My whole life just like shifted. And I started integrating all of the spiritual practices that are just like completely an integral part of my life now. So meditation, yoga, I did a yoga teacher training, a breathwork teacher training, and just practicing all of these things like on a daily basis. And then also sat in my first ceremony of ayahuasca.
And that was in India?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was stuck there during COVID.
Oh, okay.
Very happily stuck there.
Yeah.
It was,
Stuck.
yeah. I happened to be there when the whole COVID thing went down.
How long were you there in India?
3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was a huge part of my journey and transformation and everything. Like, I mean, India. Have you been to India?
I haven't, but I definitely want to.
Yeah.
I also, very, similar story. I started my awakening, and I didn't know, I was very close-minded with, religions and other different spiritual practices. So I think for me, that like wasn't even like a place that I would have wanted to visit, but now like I'm like dying to visit and like learn all the different things like directly, from the source.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's interesting. Where are you originally from?
So I was born in Chicago.
Okay.
But we left Chicago with my family when I was 7 and moved to Lithuania because my ancestry is Lithuanian. Okay. All of my grandparents are from Lithuania. And we grew up speaking Lithuanian in the family. Like my dad was very strict, so like only Lithuanian in the house. And like going to Lithuanian church and Lithuanian camp, so all Lithuanian. So we ended up moving there, which was supposed to be for a year, but that just turned into our whole lives. My parents live there now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And in terms of like community involvement here in PSAC, like what do you actively participate in? What do you do? I know you mentioned some breath work, but what else? And if you want to, dive a little deeper into the types of breath work that you do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as I mentioned, my life has basically been between breath work. This is my passion, my work, my practice, and then this medicine community that I work with. So between those two, it takes up pretty much most of my time. But yeah, the breath work that I am trained in is from my teacher. He goes by Celtic breathwork. He's an amazing Irish man named Mike O'Mara. I'm afraid to mispronounce his last name. Irish. Mike O'Mara.
Sounds right.
Yeah, something like that. Say it with an Irish accent. But yeah, he goes by Celtic breathwork, and so I trained with him in India, doing various courses and trainings with him. So this technique is similar to rebirthing. It's this conscious connected breathing, no pauses between the inhale and the exhale. I also work with breath retentions, vocal activation, so like chanting. So it's like a nice combination of this, grounded, very like science-based, which is really important to me, for it to not just be, this like woo-woo thing. It's like, this our breath is everything. Breath is life. It's our first thing we do and the last thing we do in life, and then also the spiritual component of it, of course, and the mystical component. So kind of combining those two worlds together.
I like that, you mentioned that, like, tying the spiritual with scientific. I'm sure you've heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza. Like, that's what, he does. And you need that nowadays. There's a lot of skeptics out there, and in order to get any kind of, like, even a sliver of their attention, you got to have, logic and science to back it up. So that's awesome. Can you tell me a little bit about your daily rituals and just practices that form the core of your spiritual routine?
Yeah, I mean, the breath. The breath is my biggest main teacher. Prana, right? Our life force. So I work with that a lot. I mean, it's just become, it's almost interesting, like it's not even exactly, it is a practice, but it's also just like a part of me, like I just notice myself just always coming back to the breath, even without like designating a certain time for it, which I also do. Like in the mornings, I like to do like specific like activation practices, maybe kind of like similar to drinking a cup of coffee, it activates you, gives you that energy boost that you need. But yeah, just constantly coming back to my breath. I mean, that's what breath work mainly is about. It's about breath awareness. So just constantly just being aware. How am I breathing? And learning how to regulate it, slowing it down. So like in ceremony, this is always really, really useful for me. My main thing that I do is just so I would say, the breath is the main one, but I also practice yoga, and I sing a lot, so I do a lot of singing practice, a lot of stuff that I started in India, so these specific kind of Om chanting practices, and I play a lot of instruments, so often like in the morning I like to do that.
Nice. And reflecting on your time here in PSAC, what are some challenges and things that you faced that have allowed you to grow in these 6 months that you've been here in PSAC? Like, if you can, you don't have to go into too much detail, but just give us a little tidbit here.
I mean, it's always a bit of a challenge starting, fresh in a new place, and I'm 32, so like at this point, I'm getting a little tired of this nomadic lifestyle, and it gets hard, it gets lonely, constantly like moving, meeting new people, new communities, finding work, establishing myself in my work. So having to do that, starting over here again, was tough, and that took a few months for me to really kind of, ground myself and feel at home, and find this community, this amazing community who literally I call them family. It's like, so I mean, to get there, it took a minute, and it took faith and patience, and it was also freezing when I arrived here, so it was just so cold, which was unexpected. June, July, so I think that was the biggest challenge. And I mean, living this kind of life is also intense, I'm sure you know, with ceremonies and like all these energies here in Pisac. It can be a lot to navigate, but I wouldn't choose any other life, any other path.
No, that was kind of my challenge as well. Just I've been not very nomadic, but I've been exploring new places, and I kind of did it a little bit later in life. So just kind of starting over again, definitely a challenge. But it's also like, you did it, it's kind of leading into my next question, like what's on the flip side, like what moments here in Pisac have given you like a sense of accomplishment, just you're proud of, what you've been able to do?
I mean, wow. I feel like, especially the work that we've been doing with this community and working with ayahuasca has just been really life-changing and heart-opening, and she's been my biggest teacher. I've been just opening a lot in ways that I never have before, so especially with my voice. I've always sung, like I'm a singer, I'm a musician as well, but it's reached a whole nother point now where it's just becoming more and more like heart-centered rather than like performance-based. I mean, I kind of grew up more in this performance side of it. Ever since I was a kid, I was in choirs and had some music lessons, and so it's just, I was in bands, but it was very much in this performance. And now it's been the flip side of that, of like being really coming back to the heart, really from the source of what music is for. Music is for healing and for sharing. So that's been a big shift, and that is, coming through with everything I do, with my offerings, because my breath work, I also do sound journeys together with it. So it's this breath and music experience, like using the natural healing properties of sound to help guide breathers through their journey, through their process. So I think, that this opening has been a really, really big thing for me, and just, showing up more.
No, and I remember that ceremony that you were in. I still didn't really know you that well then, and I remember when you started singing, I'm just like, wow, I just started like crying. Like I didn't cry the whole ceremony, and then all of a sudden your voice was just like boom. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, no. I've also noticed, I also sing, and I've noticed that since I started making breath work, part of my daily routine, that my singing has like gotten better.
Oh yeah.
And it makes sense. I mean, you have way more control over the air with your lungs. Your lungs are stronger, and it's definitely something that goes hand in hand. Breath work and singing and sound.
100%.
So you talk a lot about community. What's from your perspective, how would you describe the interconnectedness of the Pisac community, or just Pisac Mascom?
I mean, I love that I feel like I have, these two very different communities. It's kind of nice to yeah, I feel like I have this like soul seed community, Pisac community, and then also, you know, kind of the Castle and Masca community, which is also beautiful. So it's nice to kind of, I guess, have those different energies. Yeah, because, you know, sometimes you just like need to just go into Pisac and just have this like, just Pisac, go out in the town kind of energy, and that's really, really nice and comforting as well. Yeah, I feel like the community is strong, like especially Soul Seed. Like when I go in there, it's just like literally you're hugging every other person and then spending like 3 hours talking. Oh man, I'm just gonna come here for 5 minutes. But it's a beautiful problem to have.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was, for me, that was one of the things that like really, you know, kept me here was community. You know, I'm from back, you know, in the States, and you can find little pockets of it back in the States. Not so much, you know, where I'm from, but over here it's just like you're just immersed in it, you know.
Yeah.
And like you said, family. You know, they become family, and people look out for you. You know, I was sick for a few weeks, and people were like checking in on me to see if I need anything and how I'm doing, and that's beautiful. You know, it's beautiful to have. Are there any specific individuals or events here in Pisac that have, you know, profoundly influenced your journey?
I mean, I keep going back to these two things, but it's just the truth. Soul Seed has been really big. You know, that's where I teach breath work and just spend more time and know a lot of people. So yeah, all the events that Soul Seed offers is just pretty awesome. Like, such a dynamic, you know, calendar of beautiful things. And then the medicine community that I work with, for sure. Like, you know, there's ceremonies weekly. Yeah, so these two things have just been the main things that I participate in. Other than that, I don't spend too much time with other things in the Pisac area, you know, aside from just like going into nature and stuff. But from events, that's mostly what I do.
Nice. And for anybody who's, you know, kind of curious about either visiting or, you know, relocating or just you know, trying something different, what would you say to them? You know, what kind of advice would you give them to, you know, either make that leap or you know, do a little bit more research and like look into things? You know, what would you say? What would you say to somebody that's kind of on the fence and like curious?
Do it.
There you go.
Don't think, just do it. Like, the scariest part is buying that flight. Once you do it, that's it. And there's never been a place that I regretted going to, ever. Like, and I've traveled a lot living this nomadic lifestyle, and I can't even imagine any other way, even, you know, with the hardships and the starting over and all of that. It's like, I don't know any other way, because it's just such a beautiful life, and I'm just like constantly in gratitude and in awe of, yeah, just like how amazing this life is. Yeah, so just to take that leap, honestly, and just get out of that comfort zone, because there's such great things beyond it.
No, for sure. That's excellent advice. Just do it. In terms of like, is there anything else like with your practices, with any of the workshops, trainings that you do? Is there anything else that you wanted to add, or like go into a little bit more further detail? Just kind of describing like what else you do here. We also kind of want to like give a little bit of a, you know, spotlight so that more people are informed about what you do. Do you have any like social media? Do you put content out there? Is there anything like that where people can reach you and find you, and if they wanted to do private sessions, I don't know, virtually or in person. If you start doing retreats, I'm not sure if you're in that, but yeah, share a little bit about that.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Yeah, I work online as well as offline. My Instagram handle is air_with_Adi. So that's kind of my main, I guess, social media platform that I use. I also have a Facebook one that I don't use as much, but that one is Breathwork with Arija. Yeah, so I've worked in a lot of different settings. So a lot of one-on-one, group sessions, so private or like at Soulseed weekly. There's just there's every Thursday 10 a.m. at Soulseed. 10 to 12 I have Breathwork Sound Journeys.
Highly recommended.
Yes. And then, I have worked in retreat containers as well, and there's some more coming up in the near future, so definitely, people can just send me a message if they're curious about that kind of a container. A lot of exciting projects coming up. At the end of the month, I'm going to have a microdose breathwork meditation kind of full day retreat. Can let you know about that.
Yeah. I kind of did that on my own last week.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
So that's another thing coming up in the near future. But yeah, I'm starting to share more on the music side as well. I've always had music as a part of what I offer, but it's starting to become more and more of that because it's something that I feel like I have personally struggled a lot with expressing myself and taking up space and just being embodied and being confident. So how they say, like, what your greatest struggle is your best medicine. So this is kind of, I can feel my path opening more and more towards that side of it. So there's going to be a lot of really cool offerings, more so around expression and music, and always breathwork. Breathwork is that's a huge part.
Yeah, no, that's great. You're gonna probably be seeing me a lot because that's the the breath work resonates with me, and also the expression. I've been, I would say, dabbling with music for years, but I feel like lately it's been kind of calling me more and more, and I gotta just like put it out there, like you said, taking up space and just freely expressing, without any what's the word I'm looking for?
Without holding back.
Yeah, that. There's a specific word, but that kind of describes what I want.
I also can't remember that one word, but holding back.
It's kind of like limitations, or like. Anyways, awesome. Well, that's that's kind of all I have for today. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us and talking a little bit about your journey and what you do, and if there's anything else you'd like to add.
I think I'm good. Thank you so much, Israel.
Awesome. I'll let you blow out that candle if you want.
Okay. They say that you need to do it with your fingers. Have you heard that?
No.
Because I was always blowing it out, but then someone told me you should be.
Yeah?
Yeah, so.
Go ahead. I'm going to start doing that too. Okay. Yeah.